Good evening, everyone. Time for another silver update. Now, this is the 2-hour chart of silver provided by netdania.com. You can click on the link below. You can see here I had predicted that we were in an increasing volume environment, and you can see what came in today, a phenomenal 2 million nearly. 2 million volume. It depends on the range that you pick on the chart, but you can see the increase in the volume. The trend line is here, so you can see we're trying to get back into that trend line. What price does that trend line project? Maybe 17, something like that. If this continues on the increase, now it's no surprise that this volume came in with the Fed announcement about more easy money. We already knew that was going to happen. But this is, big volume compared to what we've had. You can see how big that was, and that was a huge sell-off in silver. We had another really big sell-off in gold. You can actually see gold made new lows relative to the recent lows, as opposed to silver, which hasn't yet made those lows. So I'm still looking for some fantastic spike low, and that's going to have to be, let's pull the 4 hours and see we're over 2 million on that volume there. So if it's 2 million contracts, you're talking about billions and billions and billions of ounces, being traded. That's just absolute insanity. It doesn't exist. They're trading silver that doesn't exist. But you can see the support line. We're already below the old support lines. We just have this little one here to get below. Are they going to bring in like 4 million contract volume? Could be. Now, big moves again, same direction in the euro. You can see that. Huge volume, huge sell-off in the euro. Very large move in the Japanese yen. Look at that volume. Unbelievable, unprecedented. How far out do we have to go to see anything like this volume? You can see nothing like it out to the daily. Okay, so now we're starting to see something that compares to it when we go back many years, but very, very large move in the Japanese yen. The British pound had been selling off. You can see that some strength came into the pound today, and then there's the US dollar Swiss franc, and you can see more dollar strength. It's reflected in the dollar index here. You can see that phenomenal spike. So the dollar is getting stronger. Now the argument, if you listen to the recent Martin Armstrong, the argument is that, well, the U.S. is the most stable place. The world seems to be breaking out in war, and it's people in the world are trying to get their money into the U.S. The first thing I would say to that is, cui bono? Who benefits? If the dollar benefits from wars all around the world, who might be behind those wars? So I view this as a temporary situation. I view this as kind of a last-ditch effort. Usually, when you see this type of volume in silver and gold, unprecedented volume coming in, you're talking about a turning point that's going to occur fairly soon. So it should be high DEFCON alert for silver stackers to be looking for some type of big buying move point, a down spike. And it's, in my opinion, if the past precedent holds, it's going to be very, very steep. I pointed that out in the last video. When we get those sell-offs, they don't last long. So that will be an opportunity, but keep your eye on the price, and it's highly likely that it'll occur somewhere between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. Eastern time and turn around, and by the time the market's open, it'll actually have recovered. That's what's happened in the past. I remember my big buy that I made in 2008. I actually made it 5 a.m. And by the time the markets had opened in New York, the price had completely recovered. We never saw that $8.50 price again. So you have to be ready on the trigger, ready to pull that trigger when you get that spike low. So I wanted to look at a couple of articles here. One's on the billionaires, another one's on these millionaires. You can see here, this is from Wall Street on Parade, the 314 member club with $81 billion in their IRAs. Yesterday, the Senate Finance Committee convened a hearing to chew on one humdinger of a new report from the Government Accountability Office, the GAO. The GAO report found that 314 taxpayers have squirreled away at least $25 million, that's a piece, in their individual retirement accounts for an aggregate of $81 billion for all 314 taxpayers. That puts the average account within $81 billion, astonishing $258 million. The GAO used 2011 data, the most current available to them from the IRS. Really? Most current data from the IRS is from nearly 4 years ago. And noted that since some of the tax returns were for joint filers, the term taxpayer may mean an individual or a couple. And it goes on. Here's Ron Wyden. So you can see this is a push by the left. You're going to see a lot more of this going into the election, because you got to remember the theme the left is going to be hammering is that the Wall Street bankers and the rich people have enriched themselves. They're going to make this so extreme that they can get a majority of the people to support a either massive tax increase or confiscatory bill that will come in and seize this wealth. But even more important than this article is the article about the billionaires. A shocking increase in the billionaires. Now, Asia actually posted the largest increase in wealth, but Asia still doesn't have the most billionaires. Let's read this. Asia boasts the largest increase in billionaires' wealth this year, with fortunes of the region's billionaires growing by 18.7%. Think about that. In 1 year, the wealth of their billionaires increased by nearly 1/5. Boy, wouldn't it be nice to get some returns in your bank account, something like that. Well, that's not going to happen. But as I'm going to argue here, it's just as easy to give it as it is to take it away. And they're going to take this money away. There's no question in my mind that this money is going to be confiscated. So let's continue reading here. I want to show you a little anomaly in these numbers. But the U.S. is still the world's top billionaire country, a UBS wealth survey showed yesterday. The global billionaire population reached a record high of 2325 this year, with the addition of 155 to the list, a 7% increase from last year, the survey showed. The combined wealth of the world's billionaires grew 12% to U.S. $7.3 trillion, higher than the combined market capitalization of all the companies that make up the Dow Jones Industrial Average, the survey found. Europe is the region with the most billionaires at 775, and the billionaire wealth at 2.37 trillion, but Asia scores the largest billionaire wealth increase as the fortune of the region's super rich picked up by 18.7%, and the number of billionaires increased 10% from last year. The U.S. maintained its position as the world's top billionaire country with 571 billionaires this year, followed by China at 190 and UK at 130, Germany at 123 according to the survey. Taiwan has 29 residents with assets of US $1 billion or more, ranking 20th in the world and 6th in terms of number of billionaires according to the survey. Taipei hosts 21 billionaires with a net worth of US 43 billion, which puts the city 18th place globally and 8th regionally in terms of the number of billionaires. The survey indicated the 7 Asian cities ahead of Taipei in descending order: Hong Kong, Beijing, Singapore, Mumbai, Tokyo, Shenzhen, and Shanghai, it showed. So that's the report. Now, I wanted to point out some things about this. The first thing I wanted to show you is this seeming anomaly, and I haven't taken the time to research it, but this seems to be a fairly clear anomaly here. We have a record high number of 25 billionaires this year. So keep that number in mind. That's the total number of billionaires. Now we get a breakdown of the billionaire numbers by country. So you can see here we have the US with the top number at 571, then it's followed by China at 190, the UK at 130, Germany at 123. Now we know it's reported that Europe, because you saw in that other point here where they said Europe had the most. Let me find that here. The Europe region has 775. Okay, so Germany has 123, but the European region has 775. That's a little bit strange there. What are the other countries? I'll have to get the full list. But then the other thing that's very, very strange here is that the total number is 2325. And yet if you add together the US and China and the UK and Germany, we're not even at 1,000. In fact, we're roughly around 900. So we're still missing about 1,500 billionaires that are scattered somewhere in the world, these mysterious billionaires. What countries are they in? So that should give you pause. I'll wait until I can pull the full list, but this number doesn't really make a lot of sense. Now, the other thing I want to look at about this number is how much of this money that these billionaires control could be put into the precious metals. So let's look at silver now. I point out many times that for the past 100 years, the average percentage of assets that are held in the metals is roughly 10%. And it may be 5% for gold, 5% for silver. We'll just say that for purposes of argument. I'm not sure what the numbers really are. But traditionally, it's been about 10%. That's the recommendation that most investment advisors give. That's the hedge, safety position, etc. So let's think about those numbers here. We have $7.3 trillion. This is just what the billionaires hold. Let's just say it's 1%. 1% of $7.3 trillion is roughly $73 billion. If 1% of the billionaires' money went into silver, that amounts at current prices to over 3 billion ounces of silver. Does anyone honestly think that there are 3 billion ounces of physical silver available? So not even 1% of the money that these people have can go into silver. I think the same thing is true of gold, but not nearly to that extent. But if we even took 1% of this money and put it into gold, we're talking about a phenomenal demand for gold. So this money is essentially trap money. We're talking about a gigantic computer Ponzi scheme. These numbers are just numbers that are held in a computer. They're ones and zeros. They're digits. They're not pieces of paper. They're not certificates. And in fact, we know with the DTCC and the other dishonest organizations involved in the stock markets that these shares don't even exist, a lot of them, and the other ones are held in street name, and a lot of that is fraud. So much of this money is just phantom wealth. It is just a computer entry, and it can literally evaporate overnight. So back to the chart we saw, I want to take you to the Dow Jones Transport. That's the one I watch very carefully. Actually, in my little tiny stock playing account, I actually was looking at the Dow Jones Industrial on the long term, And it looked to me, when I looked at the chart, that we were looking at a breakout. I was looking strictly at the technicals. I was not looking at anything fundamental, of course. And I went and bought some calls in my little stock account because it looks to me like they're going to drive this paper much, much higher. But again, this is phantom wealth. This is trapped money. And we can see from the spin that comes out with these types of articles, with Ron Wyden and the left probably waiting for the next election or maybe ramping it up before the election, that this money is just trapped money. And the governments are going to come after this money, and there's no safety for this money because it's just digits in a computer. It's trap money. There's no way that they can escape if they decide to shut down the doors and batten down the hatches and just do whatever they want to do. So they're searching around, throwing up trial balloons, looking at what types of scenarios they can roll out to get the public on their side to do some form of wealth confiscation. That's what they're looking for. They're looking to make the situation so extreme that when they decide to go after the wealth of these billionaires, that the vast majority of the public is going to side with them. So really, the billionaire money is trap money. It can't get into the precious metals. There just aren't enough for them. Even if just 1% of their money went to the precious metals, that would create a price explosion that would have 10 to 100 times the money chasing the amount of ounces that are out there. So the money's trapped. It's going to be taken, and the only thing that's going to be safe is physical gold and physical silver. And we'll talk to you next time.